Has Mikel Arteta taken Arsenal as far as he can? Is it time for the Gunners to pull the trigger, to find a new head coach to run, train, and pick the first team? Or does he deserve more time? Where do you stand on this debate? Let us know in the comments section below. Lots to talk about, but we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into who the replacements can be, and will that really help Arsenal? Hit the like button, get this shared. Let's do it. It's been an ongoing debate pretty much since the day that Mikel Arteta arrived. Arteta in, Arteta out. The debate, based upon its original premise, is dead. The vast majority of Arsenal fans that didn't ever want him have been proven wrong regarding 90% of the elements of Arteta they didn't like. The only area that they're still hanging on to is whether or not he wins a Champions League or a Premier League. But top four finishes, Champions League qualifications, winning domestic trophies, getting into a title race, repeating a title race, Arsenal performing better in big Premier League games against the so-called top six. All of these things Arteta has proven to be competent and good at. Yes, there needs to be more domestic trophies. Absolutely. That area has been a letdown the last few years, and I think every Arsenal fan worth their salt would call that out. What we are now witnessing on the eve of a massive Champions League semi-final, second leg against PSG, are the calls for essentially he's going to get a statue or he's got to be sacked. You would think after 5 years, the element of polarization in the Arsenal fan base towards Arteta would have waned, but it seems to have got more extreme, that he is upon the precipice of either getting a statue and being recognized as one of the greatest managers in their history, lifting a Champions League, or he should be sacked. He's right there, right on the edge. I want you to break down that dichotomy. I want you to tell me what you think of that in a nutshell in the comments section below. As an outsider, I am fascinated, absolutely fascinated at listening to both sides of the argument and talking about this. As a football fan, it's just amazing to listen to. If it was my club, I'd probably be more emotive and more angry. And I understand the emotions on both sides of this argument, okay? All are welcome here to give their view and their opinion. My first thought on sacking Mikel Arteta is this. I don't think it's the right time for Arsenal fans to be having this very public debate. I don't believe, we know that what we say online goes into the dressing room. Proof this last week. All the footballers, they all know about 100 men versus one gorilla. Why? Because they're on social media. We go as far back as listening to Bellerin talk at Oxford about AFTV. So we know they're very aware about what's being said. Does that pressure help Arsenal? Some will say yes, because you've got to have high standards. Others will say it has no impact whatsoever. Me and Hassan speak about this regularly. Hassan doesn't think a fan at any point giving it the big one, being arrogant, showing no respect to an opponent has any impact on how good or bad a team performs. So therefore, being angry at your club or being happy with a club also has no impact either. Some people sit on the other end of that spectrum. Now, I've got to show I'm angry. I've got to show this passion because it's the only way to maintain standards. We will get better if I do this. Ironically, the people that are always very positive and happy, they believe in the same concept. They just feel you should push more positivity towards a club than, in their view, negativity. So I believe both these groups, there's an element of truth to what they say. I just don't think every football club has the same culture. Therefore, you have to find what works best for you. Some booing and breaking players' cars may make you better. Others, more encouragement may work. And that's because there's diversity in our football clubs at every single level, especially mentally. But I don't think it's the right time for this conversation. That's my first point to the Arsenal fans having it. However, because I already know there's a comment, then why are you talking about it? Because it's a trending topic. Because I've had dogs abuse in the last 24 hours for a comment I made last night, which was, I think Arsenal should be totally open to the idea of replacing Mikel Arteta, as long as they are sure as a football club the replacement is a genuine step up. That is key, because some of the names I see, I'm not even sure if Arsenal fans would all agree on who the replacement should be. And why that is very important is anyone who says it's not my job to suggest a replacement, it's not my job to give that opinion, I'm not the sporting director. The problem with that is you've got a very strong opinion of an action you want your club to take. Arteta isn't good enough, sack him, remove him. At the very least, if it's something that you feel so passionately about, so deeply about, you come up with all the facts and the figures and the rationale and the reasoning why he has to go. Some would suggest that anybody that dedicated to a cause would put together a list or an idea of some individuals that could take over, get you over the line, and take it to the next level. I went online. I went onto a few Arsenal Reddit pages. I went and looked at a few Arsenal fan created articles about who could replace him. And I want to run through some of these individuals with you. Indulge me on this. Let's do it for educational purposes. As Professor Slughorn used to say that in Harry Potter. Let's just go through it here. Who would be the right replacement? First of all, I want to start off with names that keep getting mentioned that are impossible and that are not going to happen, because I think it's important to draw that line straight away. Zidane will not be the Arsenal manager. He has zero want or desire to manage in England. This has been well documented when United, amongst other clubs, have been linked to him. Don't quite know what he wants to do next in football, but coming to England has never been reported as something on his agenda. And if Man United couldn't attract him, if Liverpool couldn't attract him, no disrespect, I don't think Arsenal are going to be able to do that either. Doesn't want to manage here. That can't be an option as a replacement, in my personal opinion. Luis Enrique's name has been mentioned a few times. Again, top-class manager. Would be an excellent man to appoint to replace Mikel Arteta. But he is not leaving PSG for Arsenal. I don't think in a month of Sundays he would do that. They have so much financial power. They dominate their own domestic league, and he is building something that could become exceedingly special in the history of that football club. Again, if you want Arteta sacked this summer, fine. Zidane, followed by Luis Enrique, impossible. They can't be on your list. Diego Simeone's name comes up. Again, I'm a massive fan. I think he's a phenomenal manager, a brilliant coach. Would he take Arsenal forward? There is a massive possibility he could, especially with Berta at the club. Now, I still think it's impossible. I don't think Diego Simeone would leave Atletico Madrid to become the Arsenal manager, even with Berta there. There is something about his relationship with Atletico, his passion and love for that football club. And I think while they want him, while the president wants him, while the fans want him, I believe they will be together forever. That's it. Like a couple of lovebirds sitting in a tree. I don't see that being broken up. So again, even with Berta, who's got a great relationship with Simeone at Arsenal, I still don't think it's plausible. So that one's out for me as well. Then we start to get into some of the more possible candidates. There's Xavi, available. I think he is willing to come to England based on what you read. Good manager. He's won league titles, which Mikel Arteta has not. But the Standard FC, the Arteta Outers rate Xavi, not according to a lot of their Twitter posts, not according to what a lot of them were saying about Barcelona in the last few years. Would he genuinely be seen as an upgrade? You can argue amongst yourselves when it comes to that one. I'd love to get your opinions, but Xavi is an option. But I believe there's going to be a big divide again. And if Arsenal are to do this, now again, stay with me, this is hypothetical. If Arsenal are to sack him, let's say we all live in that world for a moment, and a certain section of Arsenal fans get their wish, he's sacked. What you need to try and aim for, if you're running Arsenal, is almost universal agreement. So I would say 75 to 80% plus exception, this is the guy. You want to start off, because I think Arsenal operate when there's positivity at their club better than when there's frustration. Just think that's how they operate their way as a club. Would you get that 75% plus exception of Xavi? I don't think so. Areola, done the double over Arsenal this year, but likely to become the Tottenham manager. Is he good enough? Is he better than Mikel Arteta? By the way, Arsenal are in title races. They're expected to win the league. They're expected to try and win the Champions League. Is he the right guy with no experience at that level? More experience than Arteta when he became the manager, but still no elite level experience. So again, probably not going to get that almost universal agreement. And then I know what we're going to get. No one knew Slot was. Well, I knew Slot was last year. Many people spoke about Arne Slot on the Football Terrace, especially in the comment section. You guys know your stuff. So I had a look at that and I thought, well, what about Francesco Ferraioli? What about him? Well, some of you might be saying, who is this good-looking swine? Well, he's currently the manager of Ajax, top of the Eredivisie. I've used him as an example because of the Slot one. Would Arsenal fans be accepting of this? Are Arsenal fans psyched by it? Would they feel the sacking of Arteta and the appointment of Francesco? Would they go, yes, we're ready for next season? Maybe you guys have got to. I don't think they would. I think you would hear, we need better, we need proven winners, we need X, Y, and Z. I think that is what you would hear from Arsenal fans. The one candidate that I do think is plausible, the one candidate that I do believe has a better track record than Mikel Arteta, has won major trophies, has got to Champions League semi-finals, but could potentially end this season with a double and a Champions League winning medal and want to stay, but equally can end up with nothing and the Inter Milan fans want him out, is Inzaghi. And this is what I find so interesting about the Inzaghi takes. He's kind of at a point with Inter fans where if he wins, they could have won a treble a few weeks ago. That's how good his team are. But a couple of defeats in the space of a week, and they're out of the Coppa Italia, now second in Serie A. And they could go out to Barcelona in the semi-finals of the Champions League. Now, again, based on Arteta Out's logic, you're judged on what you've recently won, or you're judging your previous season. Would they see that as success, or would they see that as failure? I'd love to just get your opinions on this. I'm not challenging it. Just want to hear what your views are. But Inzaghi, for me, is a possibility. One, you could be able to land him because he might get sacked if he doesn't achieve his end goal. By the way, not achieving a treble, not winning the league in Serie A doesn't mean you're a bad manager. Pep hasn't won the league this year. Doesn't make him a bad manager, right? We all understand that. Inzaghi, for me, is plausible. But I want to get your views on this. Like I said at the start, I don't think that the discussion from Arsenal fans right now is going to help your cause. But it's here, the conversation is being discussed, so we're going to talk about it. I think there is validity in looking beyond Mikel Arteta. However, you're probably going to spend a lot of money in the summer. You're going to address the striker issue, it appears. Zubimendi, very well briefed that Arsenal will be bringing him in. I also feel when you look at the candidates that are available, the ability to attain them, plus the quality that's out there. And there's always going to be a manager, by the way, his flavor of the month. I remember this time last year, everybody was talking to me about Sebastian Hoeneß, the Stuttgart manager. I've not heard his name mentioned all year. And I think Arsenal fans need to be very careful about jumping on the bandwagon of a manager whose name is trending suddenly. We've seen many of them in the last couple of decades, right back as far as Owen Coyle. Owen Coyle was going to replace Wenger and Martin O'Neill was going to replace Sir Alex Ferguson at Man United at one point due to the quality they were perceived to have. So you've got to be careful in those regards. But with Arsenal being second, being in the Champions League semi-final, I understand the want to get over the line. I do. But who's available? Who's attainable? Who can Arsenal genuinely attract? And are they going to do a better job? I think the conversation needs to happen objectively about those points, because maybe at the end of it, your opinion will change. I'd love to get your views. I'm sure there are some of you that are saying, stop protecting Arteta. It's not about that for me. It's not my football club. It isn't for me to protect. It's about having an objective view. I think if they could get Inzaghi, I think if they could get Enrique, if they could get Simeone, it could be a very good move for Arsenal. If I go way back nearly 3 years ago and I said Arsenal was scary, one of the things I said in that video, and maybe in the one after that when I got asked to explain more about what I meant, is I felt Arsenal were in a win-win situation with Arteta. He would either get them over the line or get them right to the edge. He's on the edge. We know that because even his detractors are saying, if he beats PSG and wins the Champions League, give him a trophy, give him a statue. If he doesn't and he goes out, he's got to be sacked. That is the epitome. That is the dictionary definition of on the precipice. So he's exactly where I felt he would get Arsenal. If you don't think he can get you over the line, the next guy has to almost be a shoo-in, right? Because you're there. Especially if you don't want Arteta to be coaching Zubimendi, coaching Gyökeres or Šeško, who may push you over that line. Give us your views and give us your opinions in the comment section below. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.